What do you mean by radical engagement?
So I'll answer your question precisely and give you the definition in a second, but I just want to go back to the experience which motivated this book.
Yeah.
The book I wrote before this was called Facilitating Breakthrough, and so it came out in September 2021, and that was the middle of COVID lockdown, so we didn't have any events, in-person events at all for the book. But I organized 3 online interviews, 30-minute interviews, with people who, in a very loose definition, could be called facilitators. And the first of these was with Trevor Manuel, who is, I don't know him well, but I've known him for a long time, because he was the most senior ANC person in the Mont scenario exercise in 1991-92, which was my first experience in South Africa. And so I've known him for a long time, and I wrote him and said, can I interview you for 30 minutes live online? And he very graciously said yes. And it was a terrible interview. It was really terrible. It was so terrible that you won't find the video on the Rios website, because even with expensive professional editing, they couldn't remove how terrible an interviewer I was. The mistake I made, it's an amateurish mistake, because I wouldn't say I'm an experienced interviewer, was to spend the time trying to get him to agree with me, what I'd written in the book. And he had an entirely different idea about what he had done in his experience. I was asking about his experience in the early years of the Mandela government, but even more his time beforehand. You probably know he was an important activist in the UDF. So anyhow, it was a terrible interview. As soon as it ended, Dorothy and I think Colleen sent me messages saying, "Don't quit your day job. You know, you've got." So it was a terrible interview, but I do have one. So I'm a very bad interviewer, but I'm good at figuring out what I did wrong, or I'm good at reflecting on when things don't go as I expected to. I'm pretty disciplined about what happened here and what was my mistake. And that terrible interview was very much the inspiration for this book and the inspiration for the concept of radical engagement. And I won't read you what Trevor said, but the gist of it was, I was asking him about these big concepts of transformation, and he was telling me what he had done, I guess, I don't know, 90, 91, 92. He said, what we needed to do was to persuade a diversity of institutions and views. In one morning, I would be with a group of business leaders in an affluent area, and in the afternoon at the university campus with some very radical students, and in the evening in a very poor community. We needed to persuade everybody that the struggle needed to find a conclusion. Bear in mind that there were very deep and gaping scars then, still. Many of us have been to prison, have been in exile, had lost friends and associates. All that we and I could do was to try to persuade people that we had one shot at this. That was kind of the day job. The night job was to work with other groupings in the ANC to try and define what the shape and form of South Africa would be. So, what I realized from the not good interview with Trevor is I did not understand what it takes day to day to transform systems, and that was the idea of, okay, let me try to understand it, and that was the first of the interviews that made up the book. But then when I went back, when it started to conclude, when I started to bring the threads together, I came back to that interview, and now I'm answering your question. So it's not often that you find dictionary definitions really help you, but sometimes you get lucky. And the definition of engaging means taking part in, pledging oneself to, holding fast, entering into conflict with. That image of him doing, going one place in the morning, then the students, and then the community, and then the business people, and then the party meetings in the evening. And not by engaging superficially in a way that keeps the system as it is, as in I have a dinner engagement, but doing so radically. And the word radical comes from the word root, the radix root. Its meaning is to go to the root affecting the foundation, naturally inherent, essential, fundamental. So this is where this idea of what would it mean to do what Trevor was describing, that kind of day in, day out, talking to people and trying to move things along, not sitting and dreaming. And what would it mean to do that radically? In this case, not meaning extreme, but meaning fundamental. And so then, I'm going to save you 195 Rand by giving you the punchline. So here is the conclusion. Radical engagement with the system doesn't mean participating in that system distractedly resigned, knowing it all hierarchically at arm's length, with arms crossed superficially, impatiently, saying take it or leave it. It means taking part in it alertly, with hope and curiosity, horizontally leaning forward, hands-on, digging deep, persisting, and above all, reciprocally and relationally. So that's how I unpacked what I hadn't understood Trevor trying to say to me in that interview.